What is going on, Broncos country? How y'all doing? It's your boy Mark here with Marky Sports. Appreciate y'all tuning in today to another episode of the channel. Today we are doing, I think it's like part four right now of the Denver Broncos positional group overview. We're focusing today on the defensive line, and I'm really excited to break it down. Before we get going, guys, apologies for I was having a little bit of camera difficulties earlier, so I'm just using the regular camera on the Mac. So if it's a little bit blurry, my sincerest apologies there. If you guys haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, like and comment. I love interacting with y'all. I am on a mission to get up to the 500 subscribers mark, and we are doing it. But if this is the first time tuning in, thank you guys first of all for watching one of my videos. I am a Denver native, local here to the community. I'm a humongous Denver Broncos, Denver Nuggets, Colorado Avalanche fan, and that's a big part of what my channel focuses on. I do also focus a lot on fantasy football and any kind of major sports news as a whole as well. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy. Feedback is always welcome. All right, guys, so let's get right into it. One of the biggest positional groups last year that I think was a big sore thumb for the Broncos team as a whole. It was arguably one of our weaker positions and a positional group that allowed for the team to be among one of the worst when it comes to rush defense, and that is the defensive line. And it's a group that I was actually really optimistic about going into the season, and I just got a little bit disappointed with as the season went on for a lot of various reasons. But I think it is massively improved over this offseason. We Broncos weren't big spenders. You know, we were eating a lot of cap money. I get it. We weren't in a position where we were going to be able to just be the big spenders like we were the year prior. But I think the holes that we filled addressed both depth and ability to stop the run. Because on passing down our defense, our D line was fine. I think that we were generating decent pressure on obvious passing down situations, but it was really about setting the edge or being able to settle those zones, and it put a lot of pressure on our linebackers and the secondary to be able to make plays. And it was ugly, and it was one of the biggest reasons why we got 70 points scored on us in that extremely embarrassing game. But I think that we are massively improved. So really breaking it down, we'll go in a 3-4 defensive line. It's a little bit more difficult to break down the roster and the team because it's going to be a constant rotation, especially given the down and distance on a lot of these different plays. But when you look at it overall, what the starters last year were DJ Jones and Mike Purcell in the middle, and then Zach Allen on the outside. That was really the way that broke down. Now after those three guys, you really kind of had a mix of a combination of a lot of. There were some guys that were young. They mixed in Elijah Garcia, who was an undrafted kid that was showing a lot of promise. They mixed in. Oh man, I'm totally spacing out his name. His number was 92. He was with the team for a while. He had since left and was happy to get him paid. But they didn't really have a lot of. They had a lot of guys that were similar in terms of the stature and the build, and not necessarily what it is that they were good with. Obviously, they had Matt Henningsen as well, who I think his playtime went down a little bit last year. But overall, it was not good. But this year, one of the biggest additions that we made, and I think it's still flew under the radar so much because it happened during the draft. But that was the addition of John Franklin Myers, or otherwise AKA known as JFM. And this guy is exactly the kind of player that I feel like the Denver Broncos team really needed. He's extremely underrated. He's very productive when he does play. He's got an amazing ability to rush the passer, but he's also extremely stout against the run. He's going to be an instant starter and somebody that I think is absolutely going to put somebody like a DJ Jones on notice. But here's the big key. I personally feel like DJ Jones last year, not playing the nose tackle position, given that was more for Mike Purcell, I think it kind of hurt him a little bit being on the edge. Now, he's really good at setting the edge, but he's not really going to be able to generate a lot of a pass rush on the outside. He's a shorter defensive tackle for sure at just 6 feet, but at 305, he's really stout. And I do like the idea of having him on the inside to be able to just take on double teams, right? His stats are probably not going to look much different. He might actually, you know, uh, have worse looking stats in certain areas. But overall, I think he's going to be a better fit being able to play inside. Now, bringing Mike Purcell back, I think, is still a decent idea, just because the more the merrier when it comes to um, defensive line depth. But I think DJ Jones is somebody that can absolutely benefit pretty greatly on being able to be put in that nose tackle position. But let me tell you, if he doesn't perform well, if he doesn't play well as a nose, he is going to be somebody that could easily be on the chopping block. The Broncos owe him a lot of money. They can save a lot of money by letting him go. And so that's a huge storyline to look out. He could also be a potential trade candidate. There are teams out there that want a vet that's been productive, that is able to kind of play all across the defensive line, um, and essentially have 1 year left on the deal of guaranteed money. I think that that's something that could certainly be looked at. But do not be surprised if DJ Jones is either somebody that could be a highly impactful player at the nose tackle position, or might be looking elsewhere. It also depends on a lot of these other guys. So, but I'm penciling in John Franklin Myers absolutely a full time starter, opposite of Zach Allen. Zach Allen, the beginning of the year, in my opinion, was extremely disappointing. I think that he, I don't know if he was playing with some sort of an injury, but it seemed like at one point of the year he really flipped it on, and he really, really started playing well. But he was not performing well at the beginning of the year. But got his feet underneath him. Not super worried. Zach Allen's still super young, man. He's only 26 years old, which is crazy. He doesn't have, he's still got a lot of room for growth, and I think he could take his game to a new level here in year two with the Broncos in this defense, which he knew really well coming into it, having been coached from Vance in the past. Now, another couple of key additions that we've gotten into instead of looking into the other guys, was Malcolm Roach was one of our big prize free agent signings. Now, he's somebody that when you look at him on paper, he seems like he's a little bit undersized. He kind of projects to be a little bit more of a three tech rather than a nose, which he kind of is, but he's very, very stout against the run. When you look at him on PFF and his PFF ranking, whether you like them or not, I like PFF with certain things. I think with other things that it's a little bit overblown, but he was always one of the better, not only rated in terms of PFF, he was a very highly rated player, but against the run, he was very stout, and that goes for almost every single year in the since he's been in the league. Last year, 72.5 grade run defense, which is in the green, which is the upper percentile of the league. His pass rush was about 62.9, which is about middle to lower mid tier. Um, in 2022, he struggled a lot. He had a rough year overall. He did not play many snaps at all. He was definitely more of a situational pass rusher in that year, but it was just really bad across the board. I'm not, almost embarrassed to talk about him. But the year before that, it was definitely better against the run, being in the upper 50s. And then his rookie season was not that good. So if you look at him though, his year one to year two, big improvement. Year two to year three, big improvement. Year three to year four, he had a little bit of a slip up, but didn't play as much. Did have an injury that year, and then last year he had arguably without a doubt his best season. So this can be one of those guys again, diamond in the rough. He's kind of more of somebody that's going to get brought in to compete, to add depth, but also in a very defined role, saying you're going to be mainly asked to stop the run, especially on obvious rush downs. He's probably not going to be a three down player, but we'll see because with guys like that, you want to have players that have a lot of experience, but still a ton of upside, which is what I think the Broncos focused on a lot this year, given that they were not going to be able to be spending a lot of money in free agency. And he's somebody that's intriguing. So watch out for him. Another guy is Angelo Blackson. Now, Angelo Blackson is somebody that he struggled a lot of his career. I don't think he's had a year yet where he's played more than 14 games or 13 games, something like that. Like I said, I'm just kind of looking this stuff up now. So I know injuries have always been a pretty big part of his career, unfortunately, and sometimes those things can really turn around, right? Some of the injuries could be bad luck. Some of the injuries could be poor diet or poor workouts, and sometimes these players will figure it out. But he projects to be more of that nose, 6'4", 320 pounds, a little bit more stout, a little bit bigger player. And when he's in, he's been pretty good. It's just a matter of can he stay on the field. It's a contract that's basically worth nothing, but very similar to Malcolm Roach. He's somebody that grades a lot better typically in the run defense category rather than the pass rush, which is what he projects as. Both of them had very, very bad 2022s, but huge bounce backs when it comes to 2023. So that kind of you're kind of seeing a trend. But overall, the reason why I think that there's a lot of improvement in this area, not just because John Franklin Myers, because I think he does have adds a huge upgrade, because we're adding a lot of depth pieces. So now instead of um, relying on really really young players like Matt Henningsen was, who I'm still high on, I think can carve out a role, or an Elijah Garcia, or a Jordan Jackson, like we had last year, who wasn't all that good. You have guys that are experienced, that are legitimate players, that are guys that have shown that they can be productive in the NFL, but still have a ton of upside. So that if one of these guys needs to come in, you're not going to have these major tweaks overall. And so for that reason, I really think that this is an extremely improved overall defensive line group. One of the big pieces in this puzzle, and it's always a little bit of it's a tough topic to talk about because there's a lot of layers to this. But when you look at Ayoma Uwazurike, right? Fifth round draft pick, I think, or maybe even fourth round draft pick from a couple years back. Broncos were very high on him. I was really high on him because this guy was an absolute freak of nature when it comes to the type of player that he was. When he was in college, he played every single position along the defensive line, including like stand up pass rush linebacker at 6'6", 300 plus, 315 plus. Let me see what is he at? 320 pounds at Iowa State. So unbelievable positional versatility. He's an athletic freak. He tested out at the gym. He really, really did. Um, and the guy is an impressive athlete. And in his rookie season, man, he showed a lot of those flashes. We knew he was going to be a raw player, um, but you're really hoping that he could bring it all together. And then, unfortunately, last year he makes the stupidest mistake I think any athlete can make. Really, just a dumb, dumb, dumb mistake, and decided to not only get suspended for gambling. When you really look into the story, it was ugly. It was really, really ugly. They suspended him for the whole year. He's still undergoing the legal battle. So I think because that hasn't been settled, he hasn't been reinstated yet, but he could be. But at that point, even if he is reinstated, do the Broncos really want to continue to roll with him? Now, I think that they're going to welcome him back with open arms. I think that they're still going to give him a shot because if they weren't, they probably would have already moved on. But he's somebody that could be a ginormous X factor for this defensive line because not only does he add another body, but he adds an extremely unique skill set and physical body type to this room that no one else really has. That under the right coaching and under the right circumstances, if he can get his head right, can be can be a really really intriguing player to follow up. Overall, I think that last year this positional group was as a whole probably a C minus, and I'm being kind. I would say the only reason I gave him a C minus is because the end of the year, once we started hitting that winning streak and the defense overall started playing a lot better, they did play a lot better. But once guys went down or in certain packages, or if the game got out of hand and they really had to play from behind, or they knew that teams were going to start running the ball down their throat, they absolutely struggle still. The Detroit game is one of the big examples of that, where they went up against an elite offensive line in an elite run game and got blown out of the water. Um, so they showed that improvement, but still not good enough. And I think after the additions of this team, we would, this right now, I'd say on paper, before anything's played, I can see us being a C plus type of a group. So is it where they want to be? No. But is it an improvement? Absolutely. And is the upside significantly higher? And is the upside there than it was the previous year? Yes to that. So given the state of the Broncos, given the state that we're embracing this rebuild, regardless of what they want to say, and we're actually rebuilding the right way. And we added some guys in free agency, but we also added some guys, as undrafted players in the draft, um, going kind of in the bargain bin. I think we did a really good job of identifying some guys that could have some upside and that can carve out a really unique role in this team that is very, very highly needed. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are. How are you feeling about the D line? Are there guys that you feel like we still need to add? Or is there a positional group that you feel like is still a glaring weakness for this team or could be a really big plus? Let me know what y'all think. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Spend time with your family, spend time with those loved ones as much as you possibly can. And mile high salute to you guys all. And until next time.